wish, which by the way includes the freedom to give away copies and the freedom to sell copies, they're both important, is essential on fundamental moral grounds. So you can lead an upright, ethical life as a good member of your community. If you use a program that doesn't allow redistribution of copies, you are in danger of falling into a moral dilemma. At any moment, whenever your good friend says, that program is nice, could I have a copy? Then you will face a choice between two evils. One evil is to give your good friend a copy and violate the license of the program. The other is to refuse your good friend a copy and comply with the license of the program. If you are in this dilemma, you ought to choose the lesser evil, which is to give your good friend a copy and violate the license. Why is this the lesser evil? Well, if you can't avoid doing wrong to one or another, it's less bad to do wrong to somebody who deserves it because he has done wrong. In general, your good friend is a good member of your community and normally deserves your cooperation. But the developer of this proprietary program has deliberately attacked the social solidarity of your community, and that's a very bad thing to do to other people. So, if it's inevitable to do wrong to your good friend or the developer, do it to the developer. However, being the lesser evil does not mean it's good. It's never good to make an agreement and break it. Not even an evil agreement like this one, where keeping the agreement is worse than breaking it. Still, breaking it is not good. And if you give your good friend a copy, what will she have? She will have an unauthorized copy of a proprietary program, which is a rather nasty thing. Almost as nasty as an authorized copy of the same program. It's nasty because it's proprietary. So, once you have fully understood this issue, what should you really do? You should make sure you never fall into the dilemma. I know two ways. One is, don't have any friends. That's what the proprietary developers have in mind for your future. People shouldn't be each other's friends. Instead, they should be Facebook friends, which means not real friends. The other way is, which is my way, is don't have that program. Refuse to use that program. Refuse to accept a copy. If you don't have a copy of the program, you don't have to worry what you would say if somebody asked for another copy. You just say, I don't have it. So when somebody offers me a copy of a program on the condition that I not distribute copies to you, I say, my conscience does not permit me to accept those conditions, so take your nasty program out of here. And that's what you should say also. Reject software that denies you freedom to. And reject also the propaganda terminology that is used to demonize cooperation. Terms like pirate. When they call people who share pirates, what do they really say? They are implicitly presuming that cooperating with others is the moral equivalent of attacking ships. After all, that's what pirates do. So, morally speaking, this is very wrong. It's as wrong as anything could get, because attacking ships is very bad, but sharing is good. So let's not call them by the same word. Therefore, when people ask me what I think of piracy, I say, attacking ships is very bad. I look for a funny way to reject the propaganda meaning that the questioner had in mind. So So this is the reason for freedom 2, the freedom to help others, the freedom to redistribute exact copies when you wish. Essential on basic moral grounds. Freedom 0, the freedom to run the program as you wish, is essential for a different reason, so you can control your computing. Now, all users deserve to have control over their computing. But to do this, you need freedom 0. There are proprietary programs whose licenses restrict even the use of the authorized copies. For instance, there is a program for managing websites whose license forbids using the program to publish anything that criticizes the program's developer. In that case, proprietary software literally denies the users their freedom of speech. Clearly, if you can't freely use the copy that's provided for you to use, you don't control your computing. So freedom 0 is essential. But it's not enough, because that means you can either do or not do whatever things the code is already set up to do. Which means the developer continues controlling what you can do in your computing, not through the license if you have freedom 0, but instead through the code of the program itself. So, in order to have control of your computing, you need freedom 1, the freedom to study that source code and change it to make the program do things the way you wish and do what you wish. That way, you decide instead of being under his control. If you don't have freedom 1, you can't even tell what that program is really doing. And many proprietary programs have malicious features. Features that were not designed to serve the user, but rather to spy on the user, to restrict the user, and there are even backdoors to do things at remote control to the user. Now, the features to restrict the user most often restrict what users can do with the data in their own computers. These are known as digital handcuffs, or DRM, Digital Restrictions Management. Now, this is not a rare danger. This is the usual case. Almost everyone that uses proprietary software is using proprietary software with malicious features. Let me demonstrate that by giving you some examples. One proprietary package that has all 3 kinds of malicious features that you may have heard of is called Microsoft Windows. It has specific known surveillance features, specific known features to restrict the user, and specific known backdoors. One of these backdoors is universal. It permits Microsoft to remotely install software changes without asking permission of the nominal owner of the computer. I say nominal because in practice, once Microsoft has arranged for Windows to run in that computer, Microsoft has owned that computer. So Windows is not just malware, it's universal malware. Another example is MacOS. MacOS has digital handcuffs too. But the newer Apple products, the iThings, are even nastier. A spy feature was discovered in them less than a year ago, and people started talking about the spy phone. In addition, they have the tightest digital handcuffs that the mind of man could conceive. Apple is a pioneer in attacking the freedom of its users, and the iThings deny users even the freedom to install whatever application software they wish. They can only install programs obtained from Apple, approved by Apple, Well, this is censorship, and in addition, when Apple decides which programs to approve, it does so based on censorship of other kinds. So it's extremely nasty. And when the users found ways to break these digital handcuffs, they called it jailbreaking, which means in effect they're saying that these products are jails. So the evil genius of Steve Jobs was he figured out how to make products that were jails for their user and get millions of people to clamor to be shackled. And there's a back door which can be used to remotely delete applications that are installed. So the Apple products, the Apple computer products, are malware. Then there's Flash Player. Flash Player has a surveillance feature and digital handcuffs, so it's malware. It's gratis, but it's not free software. People often confuse these things. Many people have installed Flash Player because it doesn't cost anything. But what difference does that make? That means that Adobe does not make users pay to be abused. Would you be glad to be abused as long as it doesn't cost you anything? If you install Flash Player, delete it. Then there is the PlayStation 3, which is full of malware. It has digital handcuffs of many kinds. And when people found how to break some of those digital handcuffs and install their choice of software in the machine, Sony sent the police after them, which is why we call for a total boycott of Sony. And then there is the Amazon swindle. That's not its official name. It's an e-book reader, which is designed so that it will swindle readers out of the traditional freedoms of readers. For instance, there's the freedom to buy a book anonymously, paying cash. That's the only way I buy books. I never give anybody my name and the book to put in a database somewhere. Because the existence of, well, because you see, if everybody has to identify himself to get a book, which is the way the Amazon swindle works. Most books are available only from Amazon, and Amazon makes all customers identify themselves. There's no way to pay cash. So Amazon has a gigantic database which records all the books that each user has acquired, and that database is a threat to human rights. We must not allow it to exist anywhere. So this is a surveillance feature, making people identify themselves to Amazon's website in order to get a book. There are also the freedoms to do things like give a book to someone else, or lend a book to people, or sell the book, perhaps to a used bookstore. Amazon eliminates these freedoms with digital restrictions management, together with end-user license agreements. Amazon has contempt for private property. Amazon says that people can't buy a book. They can't own a book. They can only get a license to read the book under Amazon's restrictive conditions. And then there is the freedom to keep a book for as long as you wish, and someday pass it on to your children. Although, given the harm done by population growth, it's better if you don't have children. But you'll have some other heirs that you could pass the book along to. Amazon eliminates this freedom with a backdoor. We know about this backdoor by observation. In 2009, Amazon deleted thousands of copies of a particular book. Until that day, those were authorized copies. They had been obtained directly from Amazon. And then they disappeared. Some people saw the book disappear while they were reading. And you know which book Amazon deleted when it demonstrated the Orwellian nature of this product? It was 1984 by George Orwell. A book you should all read, because it's about a totalitarian state that committed many kinds of crimes, starting with destroying books that it didn't like, and getting worse from there. So, you should all read it, but not on the swindle. There was a lot of criticism of Amazon when it deleted that book, and so Amazon said it would never do this again unless ordered to by the state, which I do not find comforting. Now, the official name of this product is the Kindle. Kindle means to start a fire, which I think indicates that it's designed to burn our books. But it will not burn mine, because I will never use anything like that. The last example of malicious features is in most portable phones. Most portable phones, nearly all of them, have proprietary software in them. Even the ones that are not smartphones and don't invite the user to install any software, they have software inside, and it can be changed remotely. There's a so, first of all, there's a surveillance feature. The phone will transmit the user's location on remote command, and then there's a back door for installing software changes, which can be used to convert the phone into a listening device. Some software has bugs. This software is a bug. So I've just listed the most widely used non-free software in the world. Almost everybody that uses non-free software is using one of these things, and therefore is using malicious non-free software. But there are thousands of other non-free programs without Freedom 1, and we don't know whether they have malicious features, and we can't check because we don't have the source code. So we must consider them potential malware. They might have malicious features which we can't check for and couldn't fix even if we knew about it. But what about the ones that don't have malicious features? I'm sure there are some. What can we say about them? They have bugs because their developers are human and they make mistakes. And the user of a program without Freedom 1 is just as helpless facing an accidental error as facing an intentional malicious feature. If you use the program without Freedom 1, you are a prisoner of that program. We developers of free software are human too. We also make mistakes, and the code of our free programs has bugs too. But if you find a bug in our free code, or anything in the code you don't like, you are free to change it, because we did not make you our prisoner. We can't be perfect. We can respect your freedom. So Freedom 1 is essential. But it's not enough, because it's the freedom to personally study and change the source code, or to do so within one organization. That's not enough, because there are millions of users that don't know how to program. They are not able to directly exercise Freedom 1. But even for programmers like me, Freedom 1 is not enough, because we're busy doing certain things and we don't have time to do everything else. No user could possibly study and master the source code of all the programs she uses. There is so much free software in the world already that no person could possibly study and learn it all, and no one person could possibly write all the changes that she might want. This is more work than one human being can do. So the only way we can fully have control of our computing is to do it working together, cooperating. And for that we need freedom 3, the freedom to contribute to your community, the freedom to make copies of your modified versions and distribute them to others when you wish. If a few users of a free program make an improved version, they can distribute copies of that version to others. They can publish it. And then we can all use it without having to write the changes ourselves. Without freedom 3, yes, each of us would be free to write that change. But what a waste it would be to write the same change millions of times. And the users that don't know how to program, since they can't write the change for themselves, they would be excluded. This is not good enough. So freedom 3 is essential. And all users get the benefits of the 4 freedoms. Every user can exercise freedoms 0 and 2. The freedom to run the program as you wish and to redistribute exact copies. You don't need to be a programmer because these don't involve programming. Freedoms 1 and 3, to study and change the source code, then optionally distribute copies of your version, these involve programming. So any given user is capable of exercising these freedoms more or less according to how much he knows how to program. Of course, there are various levels of knowing how to program. Even if you're not a great programmer, you could maybe know how to make some easy changes, and that's that's useful some of the time. You can take advantage of freedoms 1 and 3 to make easy changes. But there are lots of people who don't learn any programming, and they can't do these things at all. But they get the benefit of these freedoms when other users of the same software who are programmers make improvements, and when they release those versions to the public, then everybody gets to use them or not as she pleases, and thus gets the benefit of living in a society where people have these freedoms. If the other people, the other users didn't have these freedoms, they couldn't make changes which you then get to use. And the only known defense against malicious features in software is to make it free software. Because with free software, there are users, and some of them know how to program, and some of them are reading the source code for various reasons. And if there is a malicious feature, they can spot it, and then they will fix it. So this means the users have a defense. It's not perfect, it's not guaranteed, but it's a defense. Whereas with proprietary software, the users are totally defenseless. And even when we find out about malicious features in software used by millions of people, they still don't get fixed. Because with proprietary software, the developer controls the software and has power over the users. And the 4 freedoms together give us democracy. A free program develops democratically under the control of its users. Every user is free to participate in society's decision about the future of the program, which is simply the sum total of the decisions that the users make for what to do with it. By contrast, the proprietary program develops under the sole power of its developer and operates as an instrument to give that developer power over the users, whom the developer can then command, exploit, and abuse. Ultimately, with software, there are just 2 possibilities. Either the users control the program, or the program controls the users. When the users control the program, that's free software. The 4 essential freedoms are the freedoms that the users need in order to have effective control over that program and what it does for them. If the users don't have these freedoms, then they don't control the program, which means the program controls the users. And the developer controls the program, so that program is an instrument of unjust power. Society therefore faces a choice. On one side, we have individual freedom, social solidarity, and democracy. On the other, there is the dictatorship of the developer over the users and digital colonization. Society must reject proprietary software and choose free software. The ultimate goal of the free software movement is the liberation of cyberspace and all of its inhabitants, including you. And we invite you to escape from proprietary software and join us in the free world that we have built. I launched the free software movement in 1983. I wanted to make it possible to use computers that have freedom. That was impossible in 1983 because the computer won't do anything without an operating system. And in 1983, all the operating systems for modern computers were proprietary. The operating system is a collection of various components that implement doing the usual jobs and provide the base for implementing anything else you might want to do on a computer. So, how could I change that? I was one man without much money or fame, and few people agreed with me, so I didn't think I could change this with an ordinary political movement, protesting in the street and sending letters to people. And besides, I had no experience in that. I was not a political organizer. I was an operating system developer. If you are carrying a portable tracking and surveillance device, please shut it off. They already tracked you here. They know you're listening to me. And if they want to hear my speech, they don't need to listen through your surveillance device, because I think they will be publishing a recording. So it's okay to shut it off. I had another way to make it possible to use computers in freedom. All I had to do was write an operating system. Then I, as the author, could make it free software, legally. And then everybody would be able to run a computer in freedom by using my system. In other words, I had a possibility to begin to eliminate the injustice of proprietary software and enable people to escape by doing technical work in my own field. I was aware of the injustice of proprietary software that most people didn't recognize as an injustice. I had the skills necessary to begin to put an end to this injustice, and it looked like nobody else would do it if I did not. That meant I had been elected by circumstances to do this work. It was my duty. It's as if you see somebody drowning and you know how to swim and there's no one else around and it's not Bush.